Shut up and sit down.
Hey guys, I'm Sai and welcome to Ace Podcast Nation, the channel which features podcast series on a variety of subjects. We have shows and series on mental health, football, films, TV, wrestling, music and much more, including a brand new series on serial killers. But we also have new guests each week. We have had footballers, doctors, medical professionals, journalists, podcasters, authors, actors, as well as many others. And today we have an award-winning film composer join us. Over the next coming weeks, we've also have some fascinating shows with a horse racing blogger, another former footballer. We also have shows on bipolar, DID, and anxiety disorders coming up, as well as episodes 3 and 4 of the Mental Health in Sport series. So please check them out, spread the word, and as we speak to a wide range of guests to hear their interesting stories and views. I am very, very excited for today's guest for quite some time, ever since he first agreed to come on the show. He's now a multi-award-winning film music composer, multi-nominated songwriter, experienced orchestrator, conductor, and music producer. I'm thrilled to welcome Ros Gilman to the show. Thanks for coming on, Ros.
Thanks very much, Simon, for having me on your show.
Yeah, it's. I've been really looking forward to speaking to you. Obviously, I think it was probably a couple of months back. It started out. You just, I think, liked one of the tweets or one of the shows that I put out,
right.
And I said, "Oh, you're welcome to come on." Not really expecting you to sort of respond or say, and you sort of said straight away, "Yeah, I'll come on." So then it was just a case.
Connected.
Yeah, it was cool, and then so we just sort of tried to find time which suited yourself because you're very busy. Watching some of your YouTube videos, and you get to travel and get around a bit.
Yes, that's true. Thanks very much for watching, Simon.
No, it's really cool. But I watched the which one was the last one I watched? The one from the Cannes Film Festival.
Oh right,
and
yes. That was last year. Yes. Mm-hmm.
It looked really good. It was just, and the weather looked amazing. I've always wanted to go to Cannes. It's one part of France I've never been, and I've just always this. I've heard is really, really picturesque and quite nice.
Absolutely, it's a lovely place, and I had the fortune to go there 3 times already. And last year it was when we made this little blog, just telling people what they can do when they're in Cannes during the film festival. So the top 5 things to do when you're there. And it's just like I said, it's a very beautiful and picturesque. The weather is fantastic, and the sea is there, and the beach is there, and you get together with lots of film people and actors, directors, producers, sellers, and agents, and everyone is having a wonderful time. Actually, so it's a lovely festival. If you ever get the chance to go down and see films there, I highly recommend it.
So so I imagine you get to do a lot of sort of networking there, like you say, meet a lot of people involved in the film industry, which is obviously handy for your line of work.
Absolutely.
So how did you get into sort of music? Was it something you were always interested in from as a young child, or did it develop later on? Or
yeah, well, in my case, it was both of my parents are professional musicians, and my dad used to teach music theory at the University of Moscow, and my mum was a violinist. So it was kind of puts it in the cradle for me in music. I didn't really make a conscious choice to become a musician, but I started very early when I was 3 years old. So my parents basically initially made the decision for me. But then throughout the years, I guess as we all grow older, we have the chances to make conscious decision about the paths we've taken, and whether we want to continue on that path or rather choose something else. And I've always chosen music and always stuck to this particular path, and kept walking it although it's not always been easy.
Mhm.
But that's how I got into music, to answer your question, through my parents and growing up in a musical family.
Yeah, it's interesting actually, because sometimes you hear when people, if their parents or their grandparents or their relatives into certain subjects, like I've spoken to a lot of footballers recently, and some of them have sort of, they go on from what their parents do and they're involved in football and stuff. So sometimes people can go away from it a bit as they get a bit older. But obviously, in your case, you started very early at 3, and then you've just sort of kept going and going and going. And so, for people like myself, whose like knowledge of of classical music or film composing, particularly, is very limited. What does film composing entail?
Right. Yes. I always like to say that film composing is made of several different aspects. So it's mainly 3 aspects, and on one side we have obviously the ability to write music and to compose music, and possibly to produce music. You know, it's very technical today. You're working a lot in the recording studio, in the sound studio, and um, you know, all those technical aspects like orchestration or in my case conducting. That's one thing. The second aspect is not just being able to write music, but being able to write music to images, to picture. So a composer or songwriter or a musician is not necessarily someone who you know can immediately write music to support a certain story, if that makes sense. So you need to understand the structure and the emotions of film, and what's how to best enhance the story. That's, I'd say, the second part of being a film composer, and the third part is the business part. I'd say. So you need to understand how the business works, and just be able to be able, you know, to be able to survive and keep going in that business. You need to know how it works, basically, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that one of the things which is I've always wondered about sort of music and film, obviously the soundtracks to films, and when I say that, I don't refer necessarily to like a pop song or something which you hear and they release on the CD, but the actual sort of, I don't know how to describe it, but like the orchestral music
Yes,
which
the
accompanies
soundtrack,
certain
absolutely.
scenes.
Yes, yes. The
They
score,
make
we'll
you,
call it.
yeah, that's it, sorry. But they make you feel what you're supposed to feel at the right times. So
Absolutely.
like for an example, in Avengers Endgame, when they all sort of align together and they all come together, you have the big score and the big music comes up. And I've always wondered, and this might be a really stupid question, so to match that up, would you see the script and go from there, or would you see the film without the music and go from there? Because I've always wondered how you can match that up. What best way to match that up?
Yes, that's a very good question, actually, Simon. So very often when I work on a project, the approach is different for this. I'd say a couple of different approaches to it. Um, Very often, I will get sent the script to very early on, before the film is even shot, before the film is in production, and you read the script, you get an idea what it's about, and you might even have some idea of some music bits and bops that you think might work. But really, the like we said, the old saying is, a picture tells 1,000 words. I think that's how it goes. Once you see the image, once you see the film, very often what you had in mind when reading the script might be not necessarily fit what you see once the images are there. So the work, or what work usually starts with what we call a final cut, or at least a rough cut. So I've got a picture that's that I can see, and then I go in and usually talk to the director, the film director, about, like you said, the certain scenes and what emotions we want to convey, what emotions we want the audience to feel in certain moments. And after the discussion, which is called a spotting session in technical terms, I go back and I start writing. So usually writing to image. Very rarely I get to write to script, which is fairly difficult. I've done it a couple of times on a TV documentary that I've worked on for a French television channel, but it's fairly difficult to write without knowing what exactly is happening on the screen. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's something I've always wondered. And for me, I think music is so powerful, even more powerful than picture in many ways, because like often people, depending on my mood, I'll listen to different types of music. So when you're watching a film, you're so engrossed in the film you're watching, you're not necessarily consciously listening to the soundtrack of the film, but that's what's directing and navigating your feelings to where they need to be for each scene and for the big finish or whatever it may be. And I've like I say, I find it really fascinating because quite often when people are watching a film, they won't be paying too much attention at the time to that music, but that's what's making them feel what they feel alongside, obviously, the actors and actresses as they take you through their performance.
Yes, absolutely. In fact, in film, there are different, or in the film composition world, I don't quite remember who said it, but it might have been the great John Williams. I'm not quite sure who was my personal idol. I think he said music is noticeable when it needs to be, and it's not noticeable like you just said it, when it doesn't need to be. So sometimes it just supports emotion. Sometimes it's really there, kind of very central to the whole plot, or to the what's happening. Sometimes there's really just music there, but yeah, I think there's a time for everything here.
Yeah, it's like I say, I find it really interesting. Where did you do? I had a look on your website, and you've sort of done musical training and various. You've been all over the world, learning different things. Where did you sort of first start your musical training?
Yeah, well, I started violin playing when I was a child in Moscow, in Russia, where I was born, and trained there it's like it's called a school for musically gifted children. So basically, they have an emphasis on music. So you do maths, you do literature, and so on and so forth, but you have quite a lot of time dedicated to the education of music. And then when my parents moved to Germany, where I continued my violin education and music education. And after my A levels, I moved to Vienna, to Austria, to uni, and this is where I initially studied violin. And you might have read on my website, sadly I had an injury, a hand injury, which forced me to stop playing the violin, and then I moved from performing to composing and conducting. And this is what we've been talking about earlier. One of those moments where you decide, what do I want to do? Do I want to continue, or do I want to, do something else? And then I, decided to continue music. And after Vienna, I spent a little bit of time in London, where I am still
Mm.
based at the Royal College of Music, and uh, went back to do my masters in Vienna, and decided that I really want to move to London and the UK, because it's such a wonderful place for me personally to be, and I really enjoy being here. So I moved, and that's where I am.
Cool. So how many languages can you speak sort of fluently?
I can. Well, I'm lucky to speak 4 languages, so Russian, German, English, and Spanish. So that's I think enough.
Yeah, that's really
Oh no.
that's really good. And it's really handy to have as well. And obviously, I would assume because you've moved around, a bit with your education and stuff, that's obviously developed those languages. But obviously, then when
Yes.
you go to a place like the Cannes Film Festival, you can speak to filmmakers or composers and from all around the world easily. Not easily,
Yes.
but you know what I mean. Like in ways perhaps that some other people cannot.
Absolutely. Yes. I think if you language, a language is such a an an inherent thing in every one of us. So if you speak the same language as someone else, there's already some common ground and some commonalities. If 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 you know what I mean. So that's certainly, if I meet someone who's from Germany or who's from Russia, there's already some sort of a connection, or
Yeah.
and so I think that's quite a nice thing to have, and then with the language you can um, learn more about the culture of a country, or and so on and so forth. So you're definitely very handy.
Yeah, funny enough, Germany is one of my favorite places in Europe. I
All
went
right.
to Wolfsburg for about, I think it was about 3 weeks.
Oh, okay.
I, God, it must have been 20 years ago now, nearly. God, that's gone quick. um, and yeah, it's one of the best sort of. It was a holiday, but it wasn't. But it was one of the best periods where I've been away from the UK.
All
I
right.
really, really enjoyed Germany, and I didn't expect, I expected to have a good time and enjoy it, but I didn't expect to come back and think, wow, that was one of my favorite places I've ever
Oh,
visited.
amazing. What was it that you liked particularly about being there?
I don't really know because I went with some friends, and we stayed with their family, um, and we just sort of we didn't do necessarily like touristy things. We did just what they would do if they had gone back to see their family. So it was almost like you had a look into like the day-to-day life of a German family as
Yes.
opposed to sort of going sightseeing and stuff. So I
Yes.
just enjoyed it. It's difficult. It's a long time ago now as well. God, I can't even
But
put it.
I
Go
do know
on.
what I mean. It's kind of, living the life of the locals, and really getting to understand how things work, and I think that's probably the best way to get to know a country, and in a culture, to just immerse yourself in it completely.
Oh yeah,
Oh,
definitely.
well,
And
I'm glad you had a lovely time there.
yeah, it really was. It's something which I say I'll never forget. And as I just said, I couldn't remember much of it, but you know what I mean? It's the experience and the feelings that I associate with that trip won't
Mhm.
leave me, even if my memory lets me down in
Yes,
terms of
yes,
the other part of it. But I mean, you're right. It's like so often we go on holiday to, all around the world. People, they go traveling, but you don't necessarily do what the locals do day to day. You're sort of doing sightseeing, or you're by the pool, or whatever it may be. So
exactly.
you don't get to experience that sort of traditional. It might not be even different to what you do if you were at home. There's not that much difference in terms of day to day life, but obviously, I think you get to appreciate it a bit more.
Absolutely. Yeah, I completely agree. And I also agree with what you just said about the emotions. And I think sometimes we forget certain things, or we don't really forget how we felt or how we feel about a trip, or a person. So I think that's That's certainly a great way to put it. Remember how we feel about things.
Yeah, definitely. But it's weird, isn't it? Because like my emotions remind me that it's when like it changed me as a person, but my memory can't think off the top of my head, why. Like I'm sure if I went away and thought about it and looked at some pictures and stuff, some things would come back to me.
Yes,
But
yes,
human
absolutely.
brain is a
Exactly.
complex
Yeah,
thing.
absolutely the way it works. Absolutely.
And so obviously you've performed in orchestras all around the world, and I noticed, like, obviously I'm not massively familiar with sort of orchestras and things like that, but I did recognize, where was it, like it said you continued your violin studies at the Richard Strauss, I'm going to butcher this word now, a conservatoire.
Yeah,
Right.
that's right.
Oh.
No, perfectly right. Yeah.
And Richard Strauss as a name sort of stuck out straight away.
Yes.
Um,
Yeah.
and I'm assuming that over the years you've played alongside some people who you admire greatly, and you
Yes.
maybe have grown up watching and listening to. Would that be fair to say?
Yes. I was fortunate to have the chance to meet a couple of the people that I admired when I was growing up, and as a classical musician. So among those people would be I had a chance to very briefly meet legendary violinist Itzhak Perlman, who also played on lots of John Williams scores for Steven Spielberg's film, for example, Schindler's List or The Geisha. I don't know if you or some of your listeners have seen these films, but so I had the chance to meet him. Then another legendary cellist, whose name was as a Russian cellist, Mstislav Rostropovich. Rostropovich. So again, from the classical world, everybody would know him. So I had the chance to meet a couple of people that I thought were great musicians. Misha Maisky, I had the chance to see once, and yes, so yeah, it just brings me back to really interesting times, which are in the past.
Yeah.
No, good question.
So obviously, like I said, I visited your website a couple of times over the last couple of weeks, having a look and just sort of reading up about you a bit. And so obviously you've been a part of many different projects, films, TVs, all sorts of different things. Have you got any sort of which you like favorite to you, or which you look back at and you sort of, whether it be because you're really proud of the work you did or because it means something to you, or
Yes, there are a couple of projects that I remember very fondly. There is this one project that is again a TV documentary for again a French television channel that I did a while back, which called Paris is the Target, and it's about the Paris November attacks. Which was a very meaningful project for me. And another project that I really liked scoring, really liked working on was a short film, an animated short film called Yuan, which you can watch online, and the behind the scenes of the soundtrack are on my website on rosgilman.com or my YouTube. Again, Ros Gilman. Those are two projects that just come to mind immediately when I think about two projects that I really enjoyed working. But there are many. I'd say actually most projects I've worked on so far were really enjoyable and was was lucky to have collaborators and directors who did great films and were a pleasure to work with. So I'll probably after that interview, you'll probably think, oh, I should have mentioned that, and I should have mentioned that one. So yeah, quite a few of the projects that I've done. Can't remember anything that I did not like in the end. But yeah, so far I think I've been lucky.
Yeah. So so late 2015, you were nominated for the Crystal Pine Award by the International Sambour Film Musical Festival for
That's right. Yes.
Best Original Score, which was for your work on Teddy Bear, which was Academy Award winning qualifying short film.
That's right.
What can you tell me about that?
Well, that's actually another film that you've said. It's a while back. It's like, well, more than 4 years now. But that was a lovely project by an Austrian filmmaker who I really enjoy working on. And it's a short film. It's a thriller about a young boy and his teddy bear who works is protected. That's all I will say for now. And that was a lovely project, and I was very excited when I got the email from I think it's the director from the festival that said, "So you're nominated. Congratulations!" I was very excited. It was, I think, my first nomination ever for that one. So yes, hopefully more projects like this to come in the future.
Yeah, and I was reading through, like, obviously it seems like you've been either nominated or you've won awards quite regularly. Can't speak. So let me see. Sorry. So what do we have? Oh, that's what I was going to ask you about. And it said in early 2016 you were selected to be part of the BAFTA Guru Pro. Can you explain to me like what that is or what it entails? I hadn't heard that before.
Absolutely. So BAFTA Guru and then BAFTA Crew is a wonderful program by from the BAFTA, the British Academy of Television Awards. Gosh, I hope I've said that right, but it's BAFTA anyway. Well, we all know it. So they run a program that lasts for a year, which chooses filmmakers and directors and producers and composers and other professionals from the film scene from the entire country. So if any of the people watching are filmmakers, I think it's a really wonderful program, bringing together people from that have the same interest, and they put in master classes, they put in networking events, this is basically a mentoring program, and I think they have one in Cardiff. I think there's one in Manchester, and don't quote me on this, but there's certainly one in London. They're the one that I attend, and it's I've been fortunate to have been accepted for the third year round now. It's just started last week. I couldn't attend the opening event, which I'm very sad about because I was at the film festival. But it's a wonderful program. So that's what they do. They basically nurture young talent and support young talent in British film.
Yeah, that's a really good thing to have, because obviously people like yourself and up and coming film directors or filmmakers, producers, whatever, music composers, whatever it may be, they're the future of filmmaking, for the next 20, 30 years. And I think whether it's filmmaking or sport or education of any sort, I always feel that we should put as much time and effort and money into nurturing the future and encouraging them to use their talents to further themselves, whatever sort of sport or entertainment, whatever it may be. And that sounds like a really, a good thing. Like, obviously They do a lot of that with sport as well. But I would like to see it expanded a bit further into more sort of filmmaking and things like that.
Yes.
Although
Yes.
I saw recently quite a few similar, like same sort of thing, like mentoring programs for kids for YouTube channels. So it's
All
like
right.
I think it's run by YouTube creators,
Okay.
and they encourage children to come along and learn how to like do basic video editing or
Yes.
different aspects of that. And I mean, kids are glued. At least my kids are. They're glued to YouTube all the time on their devices and things like that. So, as soon as they've got a chance to look at a phone or tablet, they want to do it. So it's why not encourage them to use it for a career or use it for their
Absolutely.
skills.
In a creative way and to express themselves. Absolutely. Yes. And to tell a story to others, to share, to inspire others. Absolutely. Yes. I think it's Simon, you're absolutely right. It's nurturing talents to be creative or to in the sports or like you said, education. All of these is areas nurturing young people to be active and proactive and these areas are certainly wonderful and like I said there are great programs there that support young people in whatever they want to be nurtured in, I suppose.
Yeah, I think the biggest problem is finding those, the projects and these people who do these things. Because
Programs, yes.
I came across that YouTube one entirely by accident, whereas obviously some people, lots of other people didn't come across it. So it's almost, if you're going to do these projects, whether it's for filmmaking, YouTube, or sports, whatever it may be, people need to get them out there more so that young people can find their creativity.
Yes. I agree that you're saying these programs they're sometimes not as easy to find as one would think or wish in order for young people to sign up and benefit from it, and that's true.
Yeah, I'm all for people finding their creativity, especially so my middle son is not really into sport, whereas the younger one and the older one are.
Right.
It's taken him a bit of time to find sort of what he wants to do and what he's interested in, what he enjoys. And it got quite frustrating for a period where we were trying to help him, find something, whether it be music or dance or gymnastics or some sort of sport or whatever it may be. And we did struggle for a while finding him something. So I do feel like it needs to be more widely accessible outside of the usual, the general things like football, rugby, from a sport point of view,
Yes.
and then encourage more musical instruments. Although
Yes.
I was amazed at how many musical instruments they offer in my son's primary school now compared to what was offered when I was in school. It was basically recorder, and then and then things like violin or cello, and the brass instruments. You could do them, but they were very, very expensive to use. You had to pay quite a lot to learn. Whereas now they are a lot more manageable and they're a lot more accessible than they were sort of 25 years ago, which I think is obviously a good thing.
Yes, definitely. So it seems to be improving in that sense from what you're saying. It's that access to I guess to music or to books or art or anything like this is certainly something that not everybody can get access to, and it's great to hear that it seems to be becoming more accessible, which just opening people's minds and just for them to find out that these things are there and that they can be great fun, a great way to express yourself, and so forth. And I'm sure many people will love to play a musical instrument if they just had the chance and access to it. So I absolutely agree with you, Simon.
Yes, opening up the opportunity to see if they enjoy playing instruments.
Yes, precisely.
Because if you never have the opportunity to try those things, you'll never know. You could be
Precisely
extremely gifted, but you might not have had the opportunity.
yes.
Sorry. So in 2018, you won Best Music Awards at New York City's Aphrodite Film Awards.
Yes, that was very, very recently. Yes,
that must have been
That's
an
right.
incredible experience.
Yes, and in fact, that is another one of the films that I definitely would mention as a wonderful piece of collaboration. The film is a short drama, or drama short probably, by London-based director Annetta Laufer and produced by Joy Garoro Akpojorter, also London-based producer. It's a wonderful film about Jamaican immigrants coming to London in just when at the time when Jamaica gained independence. So I think that was just over 50 years ago. I'm not quite sure about the exact date. Wonderful piece of short film, and it was wonderful to work with with Annetta and Joy also on it. And we had the chance to record with live musicians on it, and the soundtrack was released on Spotify and Apple Music and all the major platforms. And it was great fun. There's also some behind the scenes footage also on YouTube, on my YouTube channel. I don't know if you had a chance to take a look. But if I'm not quite sure for the film, I think he's still doing the festival tour, touring the world in festivals. But once it comes out online, I want to encourage everyone to watch it. It's a great piece of storytelling. The film is called The Arrival.
The Arrival, yes, I saw that. I read a bit about that on your website, actually. Yeah, I'll definitely check that out, actually. So, were you surprised when you won that award? Did you know beforehand?
Definitely, positively. So the way it was, at first it got. This is how it works with festivals. If any one of your viewers is interested, you first. It's like a hurdle. You get into the official selection of a festival. So that means the festival, the film gets screened or the music gets played, and then it's in competition, and then it goes into the semifinals, and depending on how the big the festival is, and it goes into the finals, which is nominated, and then it's just down to a couple two, and then one of them wins, and I was very lucky. So one day must have liked the music. So yes, very pleasantly surprised.
And were you there to collect your award?
No, I didn't. I didn't go to to the States. But yeah, it's. I mean, I love New York, but it's always a journey to go over there.
Yeah.
And so I would have loved to go, but I didn't.
No, that's cool. Okay, so you have a new single coming out. Is it the 8th of July?
It actually it came out yesterday on the 30th
Oh, right,
of
okay.
June, so it's already out.
I do apologize. That's my fault. No,
don't worry about it. So the single is called Fresh Air, and it's available on all downloads and streaming platforms as well as on YouTube. And the music video is actually coming out, I think, tomorrow. I'm not quite sure, but the song is already out, and it's something different. So it's not classical or kind of cinematic pop like the other tracks of mine, Fantasies, which I released last year on my label. It's a deep house track. So it's somewhat clubby, and it's got some jazz influences also. And yes, if anyone, any of your viewers like deep house music or that style of music, then I'd be delighted if they give it a listen, or on any streaming service, or on YouTube.
Yeah, I'll check it out. I like house music, so I'll have a little
Excellent.
look.
Let me know what you thought.
I will. So I one just last couple of questions then. I've always wondered with the music single, sort of from start to finish when it gets released,
Yeah.
like what's the whole process? How long and what is the process and how long would it take?
Yeah. So it can take quite some time, actually, if you are like I was initially, and I'm not quite sure how it works. I actually went to study music business again to understand how the process works, and set up my record label after. So first, you know, obviously you write a piece of music, you produce a piece of music, then you'd go into the studio with a musician or a couple of musicians, or you know, you can just do it in your own bedroom. I don't know if any other producers are listening or watching this. So obviously you have your track, and then the you know, I always think it's you will put a lot of work and a lot of heart into making music, and then some people you know, I've done this myself before, and just uploaded to social media, and here's my track. But often people, you know, there's so much music coming out every day and all the time. So I think it's really about the way to tell a little story while, you know, while releasing your music, not just putting it out there uh, once, and here it is, but really telling the people how, you know, how did you do this. So here's the, you know, here's something new's coming up, and it's going to be in a certain genre, and then here's the album cover. What do you guys think? And you maybe upload a sneak peek of it, a little bit of music as a preview, and then there's a music video that you can do, and it's coming up, and here's the behind the scenes of us working in the studio, and behind the scenes of the music video, and so on and so forth. And so I feel that, you know, you can if you witness of the creation of a piece of music more, then you can kind of build more of a connection with it, and I think this is an important part of the process of being a musician. If you tell the people, you know, just involve them, and you know, how you, just like you ask, how we gone from nothing, like blank sheet of paper, to that particular track, or single, or album, or whatever it is, because there's so much work and hearts involved into it, and I think people like this.
Yeah, something you just said actually resonated with me in that in this day and age now with social media and with YouTube, is people can make podcasts, they can make YouTube channels, they can make music. If you've got the right equipment, you can do it from your house. You don't even need to go anywhere. So it's very difficult to put things out there and not get not lost in the shuffle, but there's so much, and people can only watch or listen to so much. So you've got to find a way to differentiate yourself from others, and to stand out from others.
Yeah.
And I really, really like your idea of doing it, you know, bit by bit, and little teas here and there, involving the people in it, because you want people to be emotionally attached, so that by the time the music comes out, or the full track comes out, people really want to see it, because they've been on that journey from start to finish with you.
Absolutely.
So I like that. I like that a lot.
And I'm sure, Simon, with your podcast, I'm sure that, you know, you're building up your loyal viewers, and people who, you know, who have watched other podcasts with, you know, with your guests, and they're waiting for a new podcast coming, you know, from you, rather than just someone who doesn't not yet know you. So I think, you know, this loyalty, and if you keep providing great content, you know, great podcasts or great music, and people will just latch onto that, and then will say, okay, I'm going to follow this music or follow this podcast, and because I know it's always great content, and it's enjoyable.
Yeah, I can safely say, like with podcasts, there's so many podcasts around on so many subjects that it is very difficult, and it can be quite demoralizing sometimes, because you put your heart and soul into doing something and you edit it and then you put it out, and then like what I found with mine is they seem to sort of certainly the YouTube views, they sort of slowly go up, but then they do go up in views. The audio downloads, since I brought them in, they've been really good, and I'm really happy with them. But like some days you can, if you put like, particularly early on, I could put a show out and it could take a few days for people to start finding it, and you feel a bit like, oh. But I started it because I wanted to speak to people and hear their stories, and I wanted it to help with my own sort of anxiety issues. Yes. And that's what it's achieving. If views and downloads come with it, then they come with it. If they don't, I enjoy speaking to people and hearing their stories. And
exactly.
Cool.
Yes.
Ross, I'm so grateful for you coming on my show. It means it does mean a great deal, because I know you're super busy. So I'm really, really happy that you found the time to have a quick chat with me.
Absolutely, it's a pleasure, Simon.
Oh no, it's a pleasure's mine. Tell the people where they can, or tell the people the name of the single, where they can buy it, and also where they can find you on social media.
Absolutely. So my social media handle is always Ros Gilman, ROSGILMAN. It's all one letters, one S. Everywhere. I'm on Twitter, on Instagram, on Facebook, on YouTube, and my website is also rosgilman.com. And the single Fresh Air is available on Spotify, Amazon, Apple Music, iTunes, and Music Glue, and Deezer, all the mainstream platforms and download platforms. So for anybody who likes jazzy deep house or just wants to check out something new, I'd be happy if you had a listen.
Cool. Guys, you can come and say hi, check out our stuff on facebook.com, ACEcast Nation. We have some Facebook exclusive videos on there as well. Keep up to date on all upcoming guests and shows by following our Twitter account at ACEcast Nation. And you can find all our shows in video format on the Ace Podcast Nation YouTube channel, and audio format at Stitcher, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Pod.co, Acast, Pocket Casts, all the usual places. Thanks again, Ross, for joining me, and thank you guys for watching, and I will see you next time. Cheers.
Shut up and sit down.